I love to make O Gauge model locomotives. My name is John Delany. When I have built these locomotives, I test them in my garden to my satisfaction before taking them to other model railways around the country. I was born and educated in Bolton. I went to the local technical school where I got a good technical education, at the end of which I went and did a 5-year apprenticeship with the de Havilland Aircraft Company at Lostock. During the apprenticeship, you learned to fit, turn, assemble. You even went into the drawing office and had to be able to produce drawings which you could manufacture too. Obviously, this continues in life, and at home I find that I get a lot of pleasure doing the drawings for model locomotives and manufacturing them. At this point I must state that my preference in modelling in the locomotive area is 7mm to the foot, which is O gauge. "40 years ago, when I started modelling, difficulties were finding drawings, components, castings, anything that was needed to make a model locomotive. I was lucky enough to come into contact with a guy called Gary Cooper who ran CCW in Leigh. He provided me not only with drawings at times, but he also provided castings for machining or small component parts that he had manufactured in his company. And the first model locomotive I built was a 7mm O gauge Stirling single. It's always appears to me more enjoyable making the parts rather than buying them. Although wheel castings, obviously, I haven't got the facilities to cast, so I have to buy the raw castings to machine the wheels. Quite a good effect, not quite as good as cast iron ones machined, but does give a desired result. On the bench here is a Manor class loco that I've started scratch building. The tender is more or less complete, and the loco chassis has been started, and I am just up to the stage where I'm going to motorise it. On the bench in front of me here is what I call a quality kit. It's a David Andrews kit. On this particular one, as it's for my personal collection, I've really gone to town to make everything as accurate as I can possibly get it, which meant modifying the kit slightly to get what I wanted. And as you can see from the chassis, that's all finished in the black that it's going to be in, but the body, bare metal, has been covered by an etch primer. And I tend to leave these like this for a while because any stains or anything that could possibly show through will show through in time. As it happens, this one's gone 3 months. It's looking okay, so if weather permitting in the next few weeks, I should be able to get the final coat on, the transfers, the lining, and I'll have the Jubilee that I've always wanted, which is Galatea. After years of experimenting with what they call the American pickup system, plunger pickups, all variations, the one type of system that I've finally achieved is wire pickups, which give excellent results. They last forever and a day, and I don't have any running problems. The way the loco has been built is to put the drive system on the rear wheel inside the locomotive, so that should anything go wrong at any time, it is 5 minutes of a job to just take the rear wheels and the rear motion off, and you can take the motor and gearbox out. When I build a loco and it's completed, I gave it considerable amount of testing, which I do on a test track that I have in the garden. The loco has to pull a reasonable weight, and it must go either way around the garden without a hiccup and pull the loads satisfactorily in a smooth, realistic way. The greatest pleasure I get in building these locomotives is doing the chassis. That is, make the chassis frames, fit the wheels with the bushes that I machine in the workshop, and get, if possible, wheel castings that I've machined as well, and you finish up with a rolling chassis that's smooth with no glitches and it looks right. Then to add the motor and gearbox, which these days I tend to build my own gearboxes because none of them that I've bought up to now have given me the performance that I require. Saying that, I have used other people's manufactured motors and gearboxes. But once the motor is installed and I get the free running, then comes the fun part, making the valve gear, the rods, the cylinders, and fitting all the detail onto the chassis. So at the end, when you've got the cylinders on, the guide bars, the rods, the wall shark valve gear, all the fittings on, you put it on the test track with the body on top or a weight for testing. It glides round the garden with a load behind it without any effort. You know that you're going to have a really good model. The apprenticeship was really good in the sense that it teaches you to look at things methodically, and when I get to the point where I'm designing a scratch-built chassis, I find that having had the drawing office experience as well, I can draw everything that I need, make composite drawings which then allow me to manufacture the parts and assemble with a chassis that I require with a motor and gearbox in that will give the performance that I need. There's two ways of building model loco. One is scratch building, the other one is kit building. Sometimes it ends up with a bit of both. I must admit I prefer to scratch build where possible, because once I've researched the drawings or done my own drawings and lots of photographs, I can make it exactly as I want it. Whereas with a kit, all the hard work has been done by the kit manufacturer, who's done all the development and organised all the materials to make the locomotive. I still find that after looking at photographs and drawings, sometimes works drawings if I can get hold of them, I tend to alter them so that I get totally the desired effect that I need, which is accuracy. I do most of my assembly work on this bench in the conservatory, which is not really an ideal place for doing it in, but there is plenty of light. Most of the parts and the fittings, when they're formed or machined, are done in the workshop, which is at the bottom of the garden. I think probably the best thing to do is go in and have a look at it. Once you've got your drawing sizes that you require, we then take the casting to the lathe, and in the lathe the profile is turned, machined, thicknesses, bored ready for a bush for insulation, and that completes the wheel manufacture. The only extra thing is that a jig is used to produce a hole for the pin that the connecting coupling rods are going to go to, which on this casting I haven't done yet. We'll chop a piece of this off on the guillotine, and then I'll put it through the rollers to show you how I make the boiler or smoke box. That's the piece of nickel silver that I've just cut off, which I'm going to show how the rivet detail's done and how it's formed, which are the rivets that are used to join the smoke box door ring and the smoke box to the boiler. To protect the rivets I use a piece of plastic card between the two rollers. So what I've got to do first of all is set that in and then lock it down so that it grips. Roll the metal through, right, then just bring it back and adjust the back roller by those thumb screws gradually, and you'll start to see the shape coming. Keep it as square as you can. There she goes, she's starting to go. You've got the form that you want. I didn't quite, there we go. And you've rolled your smoke box. This is a length of Pico O gauge track which has been set with a curve. All loco chassis that I make and rolling stock have to negotiate that 5-foot radius without any problems. And forward. Now that proves that that locomotive will go on any layout that goes down to a 5-foot radius without any problems. The reason the test track is not perfect is because I'm trying to simulate conditions that will happen on club layouts, and especially the Walmsley layout, which I've been going to, which was the Tockles layout for over 30 years. The track joints and some of the track and the point work is a little bit iffy, to say the least, and it acts as a second test track for me. So if it'll run round my garden and it'll run round Walmsley, I know the loco is as good as you're going to get. That's the standard I aim for and I'm totally happy with. It can run anywhere.